You know that specific stomach-dropping moment when you realize your sister-in-law didn't just trip and fall down the stairs, she actually auditioned down the stairs? Yeah, that was my November. Welcome to the wreckage. My name is Morgan. I'm 34, a corporate attorney in Portland, Oregon, and apparently, as of last week, the designated crisis manager for a family that thinks conflict resolution means staring silently at the floor until someone dies of old age. People always say they want excitement in their lives. They want drama. Let me tell you, drama is overrated. Drama is expensive. Drama is a phone call at 2:14 in the morning on a Tuesday that sounds like the end of the world. I was asleep. Deep, drooling, REM cycle asleep, wearing a retainer and an oversized t-shirt from a band I haven't listened to since 2008. The phone buzzing on the nightstand didn't just wake me up, it gave me a mild cardiac event. I fumbled for it, knocking a glass of water onto the floor, shattered, naturally, and swiped answer. Morgan? It was my brother, Caleb. But it didn't sound like Caleb. Caleb is the kind of guy who has a designated spider cup in his house for safely transporting arachnids outside. He has a voice that is usually steady, calm, maybe a little monotonous. This voice was an octave too high and vibrating with a frequency of pure terror. Caleb, what's wrong? Are you okay? I sat up, ignoring the wet carpet soaking into my socks. She's in the hospital, he choked out. He was hyperventilating. I could hear the sharp, jagged intake of breath between words. Morgan, the police are here. They won't let me in. They're saying I did it. Did what? Who is in the hospital? Cassandra, he sobbed. A grown man, 32 years old, sobbing like a toddler who just watched his ice cream hit the pavement. She fell down the stairs, the attic stairs. I didn't touch her, Morgan. I swear on Mom's life I was in the kitchen. I didn't touch her. My brain, still foggy with sleep, tried to buffer the information. Cassandra, his wife, the woman who treats her Instagram feed like a curated museum exhibit of beige aesthetics. Okay, slow down, I said, my lawyer brain finally booting up. Where are you right now? Parking lot, Providence Medical. They escorted me out. They said she has broken ribs and a concussion, and she told them I pushed her. The air left the room. She said what? She told the officers I shoved her during an argument, Caleb said, his voice cracking so hard it hurt to listen to. Morgan, we were arguing about Thanksgiving. That's it. She wanted to go to Seattle to see her sister, and I said we promised Mom we'd host. That was the fight. I didn't push her. I didn't even yell. But she fell, and there was so much blood. And now they're talking about a restraining order and assault charges, and I don't know what to do. Do not say another word to anyone, I commanded, swinging my legs out of bed and crunching on a shard of glass. I didn't even feel it. Do not talk to the police. Do not talk to a nurse. Do not talk to a parking attendant. Get in your car, lock the doors, and wait for me. I'm coming. They took my house keys, Morgan. They said I can't go back. I know, I said, grabbing a pair of jeans from the floor. That's how a temporary protective order works. It's automatic. Just stay put. I'm on my way. I hung up and stood there for exactly 5 seconds in the dark, listening to the rain hammer against the window. Because this is Portland, and the weather loves a tragedy. My brother, the man who once cried during a documentary about penguins because they looked lonely, was being investigated for domestic violence. And his wife, the woman whose biggest previous crisis was a discontinued shade of organic foundation, was lying in a hospital bed accusing him of trying to kill her. I didn't know it yet, but the performance had already started, and I was about to buy a front row ticket to the most expensive show on earth. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. 48 hours later, my apartment smelled like despair. Despair, for the record, smells vaguely like stale Cool Ranch Doritos, unwashed flannel, and the distinct metallic tang of anxiety sweat. Caleb was currently occupying my gray IKEA sectional, a piece of furniture I bought for its aesthetic appeal, not its comfort. He hadn't moved in 6 hours. He was wearing a pair of sweatpants I'd dug out of my gym bag, which were too short for him, and a hoodie he'd been wearing since the incident. He looked like a ghost haunting a bachelor pad. "Eat the toast, Caleb," I said, placing a plate on the coffee table. He stared at the television, which was turned off. "I'm not hungry." "You haven't eaten since Tuesday. You're going to pass out, and I am not dragging your 6'2" carcass to the ER. We've had enough hospital visits this week." He looked at me then. His eyes were red-rimmed, sunken into his face like 2 bruises. He hadn't shaved, and the scruff made him look like a mugshot waiting to happen. "How can she do this, Morgan? 6 years. We've been married 6 years." I sat down on the arm of the chair, nursing my 4th coffee of the morning. "People change, Cal, or maybe we just stop seeing who they really are." "I didn't push her," he whispered again. It was his mantra. I was standing by the kitchen island. She was at the top of the stairs yelling about how I never support her emotional autonomy, whatever that means, and then she just turned. She slipped. I heard the noise. It sounded like a bag of wet laundry hitting the floor. I winced. "Stop. Don't visualize it." "But the police report," he said, picking up the crumpled papers on the table for the 100th time. "It says she has defensive bruising. It says my statement was inconsistent." "How can it be inconsistent? I told them exactly what happened." "In Oregon," I said, slipping into attorney mode because it was the only way I could keep from screaming, "the law errs on the side of the victim, as it should, generally speaking. But right now, her word is evidence, and her broken ribs are corroboration. A judge sees a crying woman with fractures, and a husband who admits they were arguing, and they sign the paper. That's the math." "So I lose everything?" Caleb asked, his voice trembling. "Just like that? She gets the house? She gets the bank accounts?" "Temporarily," I corrected. "She has possession of the residence because of the restraining order. You can't go within 500 feet of her or the property, which means, yes, she is currently living in the townhouse you bought with your software bonuses a year before you even met her." That was the kicker. The house. An $800,000 townhouse in the Pearl District. Caleb had bought it in 2016. He paid the mortgage. Cassandra contributed vibes and occasional income from her lifestyle blog, which mostly consisted of her reviewing organic skincare products that cost more than my car payment. "She posted a selfie this morning," I said, regretting it instantly. Caleb looked up, horrified. "What?" "Don't look," I warned, moving to block his reach for his phone. "It's not worth it." "Let me see." "Caleb, no." He grabbed the phone anyway. His fingers shook as he unlocked it. I watched his face crumble. "My brave girl," he read aloud, his voice hollow. It was a repost from her mother. "Recovering slowly. Please respect our privacy." Link to GoFundMe in bio. "The donations are at $4,000, I muttered, taking the phone back. People love a tragedy, especially when the victim is blonde and photogenic. Caleb put his head in his hands. "I miss her. Is that crazy? She's ruining my life, and I'm worried about whether she's in pain." I looked at my brother, this soft, gentle man who apologizes to furniture when he bumps into it, and I felt a cold, hard knot of rage tighten in my chest. He was mourning a marriage that was already dead. He was worried about her pain. Meanwhile, I was starting to worry about something else entirely, because the math wasn't adding up. Cassandra wasn't clumsy. She was a yoga instructor's pet. She had the balance of a mountain goat. And suddenly, during an argument about Thanksgiving travel, she falls down 14 stairs. "I'm going to the hospital," I announced, standing up. "You can't," Caleb panicked. The order is against you, Caleb," I said, grabbing my keys. "Not me. I'm just a concerned sister-in-law going to visit the poor, injured victim. I need to see her." "Why?" "Because," I said, checking my reflection in the hallway mirror. I looked tired but sharp. "I want to see if she can look me in the eye." The hospital room didn't smell like a hospital. It smelled like lavender and expensive denial. I walked into room 417 at Providence Portland Medical Center, armed with a bouquet of lilies I'd bought at the gift shop for $40. Highway robbery, honestly, and a facial expression I had practiced in the elevator, concerned but not accusatory. The room was a private suite, naturally. Standard insurance covers a semi-private room, usually with a roommate who snores or watches game shows at max volume. This was silent. This was upgraded. Cassandra was lying in the bed, propped up by 3 pillows. And I have to give it to her. The staging was immaculate. She was wearing a silk robe, not the hospital gown, pale pink. Her hair, usually a perfectly coiffed blonde bob, was artfully messy, spread out on the pillow like a halo. There was an IV in her right arm and a nasal cannula resting on her upper lip, though I noticed the oxygen flow was set to 0. Her mother, Sharon, was sitting in the visitor chair, scrolling on an iPad. Sharon is the kind of woman who wears pearls to the grocery store and judges your soul based on your shoe choice. Mavis? Sharon looked up, startled. She didn't use my name, Morgan. She always called me Mavis. I don't know why. I stopped correcting her 3 years ago. What are you doing here? I came to see Cassandra, I said, my voice dripping with synthetic honey. I was so worried when I heard. Cassandra opened her eyes. They fluttered, literally fluttered. It was like watching a bad soap opera. Morgan, she whispered. Her voice was breathy, weak. Is he here? Caleb? No, I said, placing the flowers on the side table, right next to a stack of holistic healing magazines. He's legally barred from being within 500 feet of you, remember? He's currently crying on my couch. It was so scary, Cassandra said, a single tear leaking out of her left eye. It tracked perfectly down her cheek, avoiding her contouring. He snapped, Morgan. I've never seen him like that. I watched her hands. They were resting on the blanket, manicured, French tips, not a single chip. He says he didn't touch you, I said softly. He says you slipped. Sharon stood up, her iPad clutching to her chest like a shield. How dare you? She has 3 broken ribs. She has a concussion. Do you think she did this to herself? I don't know, Sharon, I said, turning to her. I'm just trying to understand. Caleb catches spiders and puts them outside. He cries at penguin documentaries. And suddenly he's throwing his wife down a flight of stairs because she wants to go to Seattle? Trauma changes people, Cassandra murmured. I want to feel safe in my own home again. My own home. There it was. The possessive pronoun. Not our home. My home. Well, I said, keeping my face neutral, I'm sure the truth will come out. The police are very thorough. We're just focusing on healing, Sharon said pointedly, and the community has been so supportive. The GoFundMe is already helping with the legal fees. Legal fees? I asked. For a victim? To ensure justice, Cassandra whispered. I need a good lawyer to protect me from him. I looked at the bedside table again. Her phone was there. An iPhone 15 Pro, rose gold, face up. It lit up with a notification, a text message. I caught the name before the screen went dark. Damien, Roots and Rye. Who is Damien? I asked, casually. Cassandra's heart rate monitor didn't spike, but her eyes did a microscopic twitch. My manager, at the market. He's just checking on schedule coverage. Ah, I said. Nice of him. I stayed for 10 more minutes, listening to Sharon talk about how brave Cassandra was being and how they were planning a recovery retreat once she was discharged. As I walked out, I felt physically ill, not because of the injuries, which were real, but because of the performance. It was too polished, too rehearsed. And that phone on the table, it sat there like a bomb waiting to go off. I drove straight from the hospital to the house in the Pearl District. Technically, I wasn't barred from the property. Caleb was, but I still parked down the street just in case the neighbors were feeling vigilant. The townhouse was beautiful. Brick facade, ivy creeping up the side, a porch that cost more than my entire education. I used my spare key, which Caleb had given me years ago for emergencies, and let myself in. The house was silent. It felt frozen in time. A coffee cup was still sitting on the kitchen island, half full, a layer of mold forming on the surface. That must have been from the morning of the incident. I walked to the attic stairs. They were steep. Old-school Victorian steep. Hardwood, polished oak, slippery as hell in socks. No carpet runner. I stood at the top landing where the argument allegedly happened. I closed my eyes and tried to picture it. Caleb's version, he's in the kitchen, behind me. She's at the top of the stairs. She turns, slips, falls. Cassandra's version, he shoves her. I looked at the geometry. The stairs went straight down for 8 steps, then turned sharply to the left on a landing, then 6 more steps to the ground floor. If Caleb had shoved her from the top, really shoved her in a fit of rage, she would have gathered momentum. She would have hit that landing wall hard. She would have likely broken a collarbone, maybe an arm trying to catch herself. But 3 broken ribs? And bruises on her back? That looked like a tumble, a roll, a ragdoll fall where you lose control and bounce. If she was trying to stage a fall, she would have aimed for the first few steps, a controlled slide. Ow, my ankle. Ow, my wrist. But she broke ribs, which meant she messed up. She tried to fake a slip on step 3, maybe step 4, and gravity took over. She underestimated the friction coefficient of wool socks on polished oak. She planned to stumble and got a catastrophe, and now she was stuck. She couldn't say, "I faked it and fell too hard." She had to double down. "You idiot," I whispered to the empty house. "You calculated, greedy idiot." I looked around the hallway. No cameras inside. Caleb valued privacy. But wait. I walked to the front window and looked out at the street. The house directly across the street, the Henderson place. Old Mr. Henderson was obsessed with neighborhood security. He had a Ring doorbell. And not just a doorbell. He had mounted a camera on his porch railing that pointed specifically towards the street and potentially towards Caleb's front door. If the argument started in the hallway, or if Caleb left the house before the fall, my heart hammered. This could be it. Finding Mr. Henderson was easy. Getting him to understand what I needed was like trying to explain quantum physics to a goldfish. He was in his garden, pruning rose bushes with the precision of a surgeon. He was 80 years old if he was a day, wearing suspenders and a hat that had seen better decades. "Mr. Henderson," I called out, jogging across the street. "Hi, I'm Morgan, Caleb's sister." He squinted at me. "Caleb? The boy with the Subaru?" "Yes, that's him. Look, I really need to ask you a favor. It's an emergency." It took 20 minutes just to explain why I was there. I had to navigate a conversation about his granddaughter's flute recital and the aphids attacking his prize tea roses before I could even mention the camera. "The camera?" he asked, pointing his shears at the porch. "Oh, that thing. My son installed it. Said it connects to the cloud or something, keeps the porch pirates away." "Exactly," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mr. Henderson, did it record anything on Tuesday, specifically around 8 a.m.? "Tuesday?" He scratched his chin. "Let's go see. I have the app on my iPad." We went inside his house, which smelled like mothballs and peppermint. We sat at his kitchen table. He retrieved his iPad, unlocked it with a passcode that was 111111, and opened the Ring app. "Okay," I said, guiding his trembling finger. "Go to History. Scroll down. Tuesday, November 21st. The list loaded. 8:45 a.m. Motion detected. The ambulance arriving. 9:00 a.m. Motion detected. Police. Go back, I said, before 8:45. Is there anything around 8:15? 8:20? He scrolled. 7:10 a.m. Motion detected. Paperboy. 8:45 a.m. Motion detected. There was a gap, a massive 90-minute gap right in the middle of the morning. "Where is it?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "Why is there nothing between 7:10 and 8:45? "Oh," Mr. Henderson said, squinting at the screen. "See that little icon there? The spinning circle? Yes. My son said that means it's updating, the firmware. It does that sometimes. Takes the whole system offline for an hour. I stared at the screen. It was updating? I repeated, my voice flat. During the exact window, my brother's life was being destroyed. Your doorbell was downloading a firmware patch? Technology, Mr. Henderson sighed. Always fixing things that aren't broken. Would you like some peppermint tea? I walked back to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and screamed. I screamed until my throat burned. The universe wasn't going to hand this to me. There was no magic video, no deus ex machina. If I wanted to save Caleb, I was going to have to steal the truth myself. Friday morning, day 4. I needed that phone. Cassandra's iPhone. The rose gold evidence locker sitting on her bedside table. I knew, with the certainty of a woman who watches too much true crime, that the truth was in that device. The text from Damien, the lack of frantic help me messages to friends, the metadata, but getting it was a felony. Unauthorized access to a computer system, Class C felony in Oregon. I didn't care. Mom, I said into my headset as I drove back to the hospital, I need you to come with me to see Cassandra. Oh, Morgan, my mother sighed. I don't know if that's a good idea. Sharon was very cold to me on the phone. That's exactly why we need to go, I lied. Kill them with kindness. Show them we're a supportive family. Plus, I need you to distract Sharon if she's there. Distract her? How? Ask her about her keto diet or her pug. Just keep her talking. We arrived at 10 a.m., visiting hours. The room was quieter today. Sharon wasn't there. She had posted on Facebook that she was running home to freshen up. It was just Cassandra. She was asleep. Actually asleep this time, or heavily sedated. The nurse had told us she was on a new pain management drip. She looks so peaceful, my mom whispered, clutching her purse. Yeah, I said, eyeing the table. The phone was there, same spot. Mom, why don't you go grab us some coffees? I think there's a Starbucks in the lobby. Oh, good idea. I need a latte. You want anything? Black coffee, largest size. My mother left. The door clicked shut. I had maybe 5 minutes before she came back, maybe 2 minutes before a nurse walked in. I moved to the side of the bed. Cassandra was deep under. Her breathing was heavy, rhythmic. Her left hand, the one without the IV, was resting on top of the sheet. I looked at the phone. I looked at her thumb. This was insane. This was illegal. This was necessary. I picked up the phone. It was warm. I pressed the side button. The screen lit up. Enter passcode or use Touch ID. She had an older model, the one that still had the button, thank God. Face ID would have required me to pry her eyelids open, which is a line even I won't cross. I held the phone in my left hand. With my right hand, I reached out and gently, so gently, lifted Cassandra's left hand. Her skin was cool. Her fingers were limp. My heart was beating so loud I thought it would wake her up. Thump, thump, thump. I guided her thumb toward the sensor. Don't wake up. Please don't wake up. I pressed her thumb down. Try again. Sweat. Her thumb was slightly clammy. My hands were shaking. I used my sleeve to wipe her thumb. I wiped the sensor. Sorry, Cass, I whispered. I pressed it again, harder this time. Click. The screen unlocked. A grid of apps appeared. Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, photos. I didn't scroll. I didn't have time to read. I pulled my own phone out of my pocket. I set Cassandra's phone on the tray table, screen set to never sleep. I changed that setting in 3 seconds flat. Then I started photographing. Click, click, click. I opened WhatsApp. I photographed the chat list. Damien, Roots and Rye was at the top. I opened that chat. I scrolled up, photographing every screen. Scroll, click, scroll, click. Love you, baby. Click. He's so stupid. Click. Did you talk to the lawyer? Click. I was a machine. I didn't process the words. I just captured pixels. I went to settings. I photographed her Apple ID email. I photographed the iCloud menu. The door handle turned. I dropped her hand. I flipped her phone face down on the table. I shoved my phone into my pocket. My mother walked in holding 2 cardboard cups. "They didn't have almond milk," she said, looking annoyed. "Can you believe that?" "Tragedy," I breathed, my voice trembling. "Absolute tragedy." I was sweating through my blazer. I lasted 10 more minutes in the room. I told my mom I had a client call and fled to the parking garage. I sat in my Subaru Outback, the official vehicle of Portland attorneys who pretend they hike. I locked the doors. I opened my laptop. I tethered it to my phone's hotspot. I pulled up the photos I'd just taken. Apple ID, Cassandra.hstyles, iCloud.com. I went to iCloud.com. Enter password. Okay, think. People are lazy. People are predictable, especially people like Cassandra who think security means locking the front door. I tried her birthday, 061494, incorrect password. I tried the wedding anniversary, 091218, incorrect password. I closed my eyes. What does she love? What is she obsessed with? Her dog, a French bulldog named Matcha. I typed Matcha 123, incorrect password. One more try before it locks me out. I thought about her Instagram handle, Cassandra Manifests. I typed Manifest 2024. The screen spun, a gray circle. Welcome, Cassandra. I let out a breath that sounded like a tire deflating. She didn't have 2-factor authentication enabled. Of course she didn't. That would interrupt her flow state. I clicked on the WhatsApp icon. She had web sync enabled. Thank you, technology gods. The messages began to load, a spinning green circle of doom. It populated. Hundreds of messages. Thousands. I clicked on Damien, and I started to read. It wasn't just an affair. An affair is messy. An affair is human. People get lonely, they make mistakes, they sleep with the guy who gives them a discount on organic kale. This was a dissection. I scrolled back to September. That's when it started. Damien, Sept 12. You deserve so much better than him, babe. He sounds like a bore. A software engineer? Does he even have a soul? Cassandra, Sept 12. He's just so flat. He comes home, he pets the cat, he watches TV. I need fire, D. I need someone who sees me. Damien, Sept 14. I see you. I see a goddess who's trapped in a beige life. I gagged. A literal wretch. Goddess trapped in a beige life. The man was writing bad romance novel dialogue, and she was eating it up with a spoon. But then the tone shifted. Oct 4, Cassandra. I can't leave him, D. The house is in his name. He bought it before we met. If we divorce, I get nothing. Maybe spousal support for a few years, but I'd be renting. I can't go back to renting. Damien. There are ways around that. You have rights. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right? OCT 15. Damien. Link. Oregon Domestic Violence Restraining Order Guidelines. Damien. Read this, specifically the part about exclusive possession of the residence. Cassandra. OMG. So, if he did something, I'd get to stay? Damien. You'd get the house. You'd get the sympathy. And in a settlement, he'd pay you to go away just to avoid a record. I stared at the screen. The blue light reflected in my eyes, but all I saw was red. They weren't just talking about leaving Caleb. They were talking about destroying him. They were strategizing how to steal the townhouse he worked 10 years to buy. And then I found the smoking gun. It was dated November 21st, the day of the fall. 8:10 a.m., Cassandra. He's in the kitchen. I'm going up to the attic to get the suitcases. I'm going to start the fight about Seattle now. 8:12 a.m., Damien. You got this, baby. Just remember, make it loud enough for the neighbors, but don't actually let him touch you. Just slip. Sell the fall. Then silence. For an hour. Then 9:30 a.m., Cassandra. OMG. D. It went wrong. 9:31 a.m., Damien. What happened? Did he call the cops? 9:32 a.m., Cassandra. I slipped too hard. I missed the landing. I think I broke my ribs. It hurts so bad. I'm in the ambulance. 9:35 a.m., Damien. Broke ribs? Fuck, are you okay? 9:36 a.m., Cassandra. I'm scared. They're asking so many questions. What if they figure it out? And then, the message that sealed Damien's fate. The message I would eventually print out, blow up to poster size, and mentally wallpaper my office with. 9:40 a.m., Damien. Baby, relax. This is actually better. Broken ribs. Felony assault. They'll believe you even more now. We'll get so much more money from him this way. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Stick to the script. I sat back in my car seat. Stick to the script. My brother was crying on my couch, thinking he was a monster. He was mourning the woman who was currently texting her boyfriend about how to maximize her payout from her own incompetence. I took a screenshot. I saved it to my desktop. I saved it to my Google Drive. I emailed it to myself. Then I looked at the chat box. Damien was currently online. Damien, today, 10:15 a.m. How's my brave girl? Did the sister leave yet? I looked at the blinking cursor. I could go to the police right now. I had enough. But the police moved slow, and Caleb was still suffering. And honestly, I was pissed off. I didn't just want to win, I wanted to nuke them from orbit. I placed my fingers on the keyboard, me as Cassandra. She just left. But Dee, she was asking weird questions. I think she knows something. I hit enter. The game was on. I sat in my Subaru in the dim light of the parking garage, staring at the blinking cursor like it was the barrel of a gun. My hands were shaking, not a little tremble, a full-on caffeine and adrenaline vibrato. I was about to cross a line from concerned sister to digital imposter, and while my law degree screamed, no, my gut screamed, destroy him. I had typed, she just left. But Dee, she was asking weird questions. I think she knows something. I hit send. The message turned blue. Delivered. 2 seconds later, read. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the typing bubbles. They appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Damien, what do you mean she knows something? Did she see the phone? I needed to sound like Cassandra. I closed my eyes and channeled every live, laugh, love caption I'd ever seen her post. Cassandra didn't use periods. She used emojis. She didn't have anxiety. She had bad energy. Me, as Cassandra. No, I hid it under the pillow. But she was asking about the fall again. She said the physics don't make sense. I'm scared, babe. What if they check the stairs? I waited. The silence in the garage was heavy, broken only by the distant squeal of tires on concrete. Damien, let them check the stairs. There's nothing to find. It's your word against his, and you're the one in the hospital bed. Remember what Brad, the lawyer, said? Oregon is a victim-centered state. You just have to hold the line. Me, as Cassandra, I know. I just feel so guilty sometimes. He's crying on her couch. I threw that in to test him, to see if he had a shred of humanity. Damien, guilty? For what? Taking back your life? He held you back for 6 years, Cass. He's an anchor. We're just cutting the rope. Don't go soft on me now. He's an anchor. I looked at the screen, disgusted. Caleb, the man who spent 3 weeks building Cassandra a custom vanity table because she wanted perfect lighting, was an anchor. Me, as Cassandra. You're right, I'm just tired. The pain meds make me loopy. Damien, get some rest, goddess. We're almost at the finish line. Just imagine. Scottsdale. Sun, no rain, no Caleb. I took a screenshot. Scottsdale. Specificity is the death of a lie. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. I was halfway home, driving with one hand and glancing at the passenger seat where my laptop, still tethered to the session, was open. Damien, hey, regarding the social worker. I pulled over into a Walgreens parking lot. Safety first, felony second. Me, as Cassandra. Yeah, She's coming tomorrow. Damien. Okay, listen, this is important. You need to look worse than you feel. I watched the text bubbles pop up, one after another, a stream of consciousness from a man who clearly thought he was directing an Oscar contender. Damien, don't wash your hair, seriously. Let it look greasy. It sells the depression trauma vibe. Damien, and when you talk to her, don't look her in the eye too much. Look down, fidget with your hands. Makes you look terrified of retribution. Damien, if she asks about the argument, don't get angry. Get sad. Say things like, I just wanted him to listen, or I was so scared he'd hit me again. Use the word again. It implies a history without you having to prove a specific incident. I read that last message 3 times. Use the word again. He was coaching her to fabricate a history of abuse. He was building a narrative brick by brick, using psychological triggers to manipulate a state worker. Me, as Cassandra. Okay, I can do that. I just don't want to overact. Damien, you can't overact fear, babe. Just think about how much you hate living in the rain and let the tears flow. He used a laughing emoji. He was coaching a woman to frame her husband for a violent crime, and he used a crying laughing emoji. I screenshotted it. Then I replied, me, as Cassandra. You're so smart, Dee. I'd be lost without you. Damien, I know. The arrogance was staggering. It was also his weak point. He felt safe. He felt like the smartest guy in the room. And that's when he decided to test me. Damien, send me a pic. I miss your face. My stomach dropped. I stared at the screen. A picture. A live picture. If I didn't send one, he'd get suspicious. Cassandra sent him selfies constantly. I'd seen the history. Morning coffee face. Sad hospital face. Cute socks. If I sent nothing, the rhythm broke. If I ignored it, he might call, and I couldn't fake her voice. Me, as Cassandra. I look gross. Didn't wash hair, remember? Damien, I don't care. I love your gross hair. Send it. I need to know you're okay. He was pushing. He was possessive. I frantically minimized the chat window and opened the iCloud Photos folder on my laptop. I had access to her entire backup. I scrolled. Today? No photos since the morning. Yesterday? Just pictures of her flowers. I needed something that looked like a hospital bed, looked messy, and wasn't time-stamped in a way he'd recognize. I scrolled back to 3 weeks ago. She had had the flu. There was a photo from November 2nd. She was in bed, her bed at home, but with white sheets. No makeup. Looking miserable. I downloaded it. I opened it in preview. I cropped out the headboard, which was distinctively tufted gray velvet. I darkened the exposure to make it look like the lights were off. I added a noir filter to hide the background details. It looked generic. A sad, dark selfie of a woman in bed. My hands were sweating so much the trackpad was slick. I uploaded it to the chat. Me, as Cassandra. Image sent me, as Cassandra. Lights are off, migraine. I held my breath. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Damien. Poor baby, you look so tired. Get some sleep. I'll call you in the morning. I exhaled so hard I lightheaded. He bought it. I had survived the check, but I knew I was on borrowed time. I couldn't keep this up forever. While Damien went back to work, or whatever he did at 2 p.m. on a Friday, I decided to follow the money. You don't stage a fall and frame your husband just for love. You do it for assets. I went back to the iCloud backup. I opened Safari History. Search. Oregon Divorce Asset Division. Search. Average settlement for DV victims. Search. Can I sell house if husband is in jail? Subtle. Then I went to her email. I searched for transfer. Confirmation. Bank. And there it was. A notification from Simple First Bank, an online-only bank I'd never heard of Caleb using. Subject, transfer confirmation. Date, November 10th. Amount, $43,000. $43,000. I cross-referenced it with Caleb's main savings account statement, which I had access to because I'm the executor of his estate and he trusts me with everything. On November 10th, there was a withdrawal of $43,000 labeled Home Reno Contractor. She had labeled the transfer Home Reno, so Caleb wouldn't spot it immediately if he glanced at the app. But she moved it to a private account he didn't have access to. I clicked the simple first email chain. There was a Welcome New Account Holder email from September. Listed on the account, primary Cassandra Hammond, secondary Damian Whitmore. Damian Whitmore. Full name, finally. I Googled him immediately. Damian Whitmore, Portland. LinkedIn, Department Manager at Roots and Rye. Passionate about sustainable supply chains and mindful leadership. I almost laughed. Mindful leadership. The man was leading a conspiracy to commit grand larceny. The $43K wasn't just savings. It was their emergency fund. It was the money for the roof repair they needed. It was gone, and Damian had access to it. I printed the bank statements. I printed the LinkedIn profile. The pile of paper on my passenger seat was growing. Saturday morning, day 5. I was at my apartment. Caleb was in the shower. I had forced him to bathe. The smell of desperation was starting to lift, replaced by the smell of my aggressive cleaning products. My laptop chimed. A WhatsApp notification. Damian. Voice message. 042. A voice note. Risky. If I played it, I couldn't reply with text immediately or it would look suspicious. I had to listen, wait a beat, then reply. I put on my noise-canceling headphones. I hit play. The voice was nasally, smug. He sounded like every guy who ever tried to explain to me why IPA is superior to Pilsner. Hey, baby, I know you're probably sleeping, but I just wanted to say, I was looking at Zillow in Scottsdale today. There's a condo near the Old Town. It's perfect. Once the settlement comes through and Brad says with the broken ribs, we're looking at 6 figures easy. We can just go. Just leave it all behind. He paused. I heard the sound of a coffee grinder in the background. I know the fall hurt more than we planned. I know you're in pain. But honestly, it's kind of a blessing. The broken ribs make you the perfect victim. No jury is going to doubt you now. Just keep selling it. I love you. I sat there frozen. It hurt more than we planned. Perfect victim. It was a confession. A full, admissible, recorded confession of conspiracy. I didn't just save the file. I downloaded it. I converted it to MP3. I emailed it to myself. I put it on a USB drive. I put the USB drive in my safe. I felt a grim, cold smile spread across my face. Got you, I whispered. You chatty, arrogant little idiot. Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 28th. Most families were roasting turkeys. I was roasting a conspiracy. My dining room table looked like the war room in a spy thriller. Stacks of paper, highlighters, Post-it notes. I had 3 binders. Binder 1, blue, the adultery. Chronological texts from September to November. The I love yous, the he's a bore, comments, the meetings at motels. This was to destroy her character in the eyes of the family. Binder 2, red, the financial fraud, the bank statements, the $43,000 transfer, the joint account with Damian, the Zillow links to Scottsdale condos. This was to establish motive. Binder 3, black, the conspiracy, the smoking gun, the stick to the script texts, the fake bruises discussions, the voice memo transcript. This was to put them in prison. I labeled the tabs with obsessive precision. Tab A, premeditation. Tab B, execution. Tab C, post-incident coaching. Caleb walked out of the guest room. He looked better, shaved, wearing clean clothes, but he still looked like a man walking to the gallows. "What is all this?" he asked, gesturing to the paper mountains. "This," I said, snapping the rings of the black binder shut with a satisfying click, "is our ticket out of hell." "Is that Are those her texts? We're not reading them now, I said firmly. You don't need that poison in your head yet. We're going to the mediation meeting at 2 p.m., and we're going to end this. I can't go, he reminded me. The order. I know, I said. I'm going. You're going to stay here, eat the pot roast Mom dropped off, and wait for my call. When I call you, it will be over. He looked at me, terrified and hopeful. Morgan, are you sure? What if they arrest you? You hacked her phone. I didn't hack it, I said, putting the binders into my leather messenger bag. I accessed it with biometric assistance and correctly guessed credentials. It's a gray area. It wasn't a gray area. It was dark, charcoal black, but I wasn't going to tell him that. The hospital conference room was beige. Beige walls, beige carpet, beige chairs. It was the color of bureaucracy. The social worker, Patricia, was there. She was wearing a cardigan and a look of professional concern. Cassandra was there, in a wheelchair. Nice touch, wearing the waif-like lack of makeup Damien had suggested. She looked tragic, beautifully, artistically tragic. Her parents, Sharon and Bob, were there. Sharon was glaring at me. Bob looked uncomfortable, staring out the window. My parents were there. My dad looked like he wanted to punch someone. My mom looked like she was trying to telepathically communicate peace to the room. Thank you all for coming, Patricia said, clasping her hands. The goal of today is to facilitate a healing dialogue, to discuss the future living arrangements and ensure Cassandra feels safe. Safe, Sharon scoffed. She won't be safe until that man is in jail. Sharon, please, Patricia said softly. Let's use I statements. Cassandra looked at me. She gave me a small, sad smile. The smile of a victim acknowledging her husband's difficult sister. Morgan, Cassandra said softly, I'm glad you came. I know you love Caleb. I know this is hard for you to accept. The audacity. She was patronizing me. She was sitting there, sitting on a throne of lies, patronizing me. I didn't smile back. I reached into my bag. I think, I said, my voice cutting through the soft, therapeutic air like a scalpel, that before we discuss safety, we should discuss reality. I pulled out the blue binder. I dropped it on the table. Thud. The sound of the binder hitting the laminate table echoed in the small room. What is this? Patricia asked, frowning. This, I said, opening it to page 1, is a transcript of the WhatsApp conversation between Cassandra and Damien Whitmore, dating back to September. Cassandra's face went from pale to chalk white. Her eyes widened, flicking to the binder, then to me. Mavis, what are you doing? Sharon snapped. This is private. It's evidence, I said. Page 3, September 29th. Cassandra writes, I wish I could just start over without him. Damien responds, maybe you can. People do it all the time. Stop it, Cassandra cried out. Mom, make her stop. She hacked my phone. I didn't hack anything, I lied smoothly. I'm just the messenger. Patricia, I think you should read page 17. Patricia hesitated, then pulled the binder toward her. She adjusted her glasses. October 19th, I recited from memory. Damien sends a link to Oregon DV laws. October 21st, Cassandra asks, what if I gave them a reason to believe me? The room went dead silent. My dad leaned forward. She said, what? What if I gave them a reason to believe me? I repeated, staring directly at Cassandra. That's a quote. Verbatim. Cassandra started to hyperventilate. Real hyperventilation this time, not the cute kind. That's out of context. We were just joking. It was a joke. A joke? I asked. I reached into my bag again. I pulled out the red binder. Thud. Is the $43,000 you transferred to a secret joint account with Damien also a joke? I asked. Sharon gasped. A loud, wet gasp. 40. What? $43,000, I said. Stolen from Caleb's savings on November 10th. Wired to Simple First Bank. Account holders, Cassandra Hammond and Damien Whitmore. No, Sharon whispered. She looked at her daughter. Cassie, tell me that's not true. Cassandra was shaking her head frantically. He made me do it. Damien made me. I was confused. Confused about your routing number? I asked dryly. Patricia was reading the bank statements now. Her face had lost all its professional warmth. She looked like a bureaucrat who realized she had been filing the wrong paperwork for a week. Ms. Hammond, Patricia said, her voice sharp. Is this accurate? Did you transfer these funds? Cassandra stammered. Wait, I said, I'm not done. I pulled out the black binder, and I pulled out my portable Bluetooth speaker. The text messages are bad, I said. The theft is worse. But the voice memo? That's the nail in the coffin. I connected my phone. I hit play. The volume was loud. Damien's nasal voice filled the room. I know the fall hurt more than we planned. The broken ribs make you the perfect victim. We're looking at 6 figures easy. I watched Bob, Cassandra's dad. He was a quiet man, a retired engineer. He listened to the voice of his daughter's lover talking about fake bruises and cashing out. He closed his eyes. He slumped against the window frame. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. The recording ended. The injury is real, I said to the room, quoting my own internal monologue. The cause is fraud. She threw herself down the stairs because she messed up a staged fall, and she decided to destroy my brother to cover her tracks. Cassandra was sobbing now, ugly sobbing, snot and mascara running down her face. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to be happy. So you framed him? My dad roared. It was the Marine Corps voice. The room shook. You tried to send my son to prison because you wanted to be happy? Dad, don't, Bob said. He opened his eyes. They were cold. Don't speak to him. Don't speak to any of us. Patricia stood up. She picked up the binders. I need to make a call, she said. I am a mandated reporter. This is conspiracy to commit fraud and filing a false report. She walked out. The next hour was a blur of official activity. Detective Reeves, the one handling the case, arrived. She wasn't happy. Police don't like being played. She read the binders. She listened to the tape. She looked at Cassandra, who was currently curled in a ball in her wheelchair, abandoned by her parents who were standing on the other side of the room. Cassandra Hammond, Detective Reeves said, you have the right to remain silent. They didn't handcuff her there. She was injured, but they formally cited her. She was under hospital arrest until discharge. Then the detective turned to me. You obtained this how? I guessed her password, I said. It was her dog's name. You know that's illegal, Reeves said, but she wasn't glaring. She was almost impressed. I know, I said. I'm ready to give a statement. I walked out of the hospital room. I walked into the corridor. I pulled out my phone. I called Caleb. Morgan? He answered on the first ring. Is it over? What happened? It's over, Cal, I said, leaning against the wall and sliding down until I was sitting on the floor. She confessed. Well, the tapes confessed. The police are dissolving the restraining order. You can go home. He started crying. Not the panicked crying from Tuesday, the relief crying. The sound of a man who just realized he wasn't going to die. Thank you, he choked out. Morgan, thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said, wiping a tear from my own eye. I might still get disbarred, but hey, worth it. Update. 3 months later. So where are we now? I'm writing this from my office. I still have my law license. The district attorney, a tired man named Marcus, decided that prosecuting the sister who exposed a massive fraud ring was terrible optics. He declined to press charges for the unauthorized access. Cassandra. She pled guilty, filing a false police report and attempted fraud. She got 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and a permanent record. Her wellness career is over. You can't really influence people to live their truth when your truth is perjury. Damien, he wasn't so lucky. Because he was the mastermind, LOL, and had touched the money, he got 18 months of probation and lost his job at Roots and Rye. Last I heard, he's working at a Trader Joe's in Sacramento. Caleb, he got the house back. He sold it immediately. Too many ghosts. He bought a condo in the Alphabet District. He's in therapy. He changed all his passwords to random strings of characters that even I can't guess. Last Sunday, we had dinner. Mom made pot roast. Caleb looked good. He laughed. A real laugh. You know, he said, passing me the potatoes, I should have known something was wrong when she started buying $70 candles. Live and learn, I said. He looked at me. You saved my life, Morgan. You know that, right? I just organized some binders. I shrugged. You committed felonies for me. Light felonies, I corrected. Nuanced felonies. He smiled. Best sister ever. And you know what? I'll take it. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.